Welcome. Today I'm interviewing Keyth Neso, and he is a tarot reader amongst many other gifted things that he brings into the world. But specifically, I wanted to highlight him because he has this beautiful deck that he's going to tell you about that he channeled, right? Would you share
I
a
would
little bit
say,
about how it got started?
well, yeah, it's the introduction of my book tells the whole story, but the blue rose has been guiding my path for over 9 years.
Mm.
I didn't know what it meant in the beginning, but this is actually an evolution of the oldest deck of cards known to man. So the ancient French Marseille can be traced back to 1471 in the south of France.
Mm.
So no one knows the true origin. I believe I figured that out. Um, and I evolved it. On my ninth handmade deck, I was guided to add what was taken back out so that the deck could survive the Inquisition to our current age.
So it's called the Blue Rose,
Tarot
right?
of
The
the Blue
Tarot of
Rose.
the Blue Rose. I'll have some other pictures. And you want to share everything, all of the pieces that go with the deck?
Well, sure. There's the deck itself, which is 78 cards, made from my handmade drawings of the oldest deck known to man, traced back to 1471 in the south of France. The logo, the blue rose, is actually a hand-drawn image that I drew myself of the blue pin that I was given after my second reading. That story is detailed in the introduction. So you get the 78 cards, and then it has a mini guidebook that comes with the deck. And then there's a full-length book that took 5 years and 9 drafts to write. So whereas this is the appetizer, this little mini book, this would be the main course. It
Right.
goes deep, deep, deep into everything I know about this deck of cards as I've studied it for 9 years. So you can get the deck by itself, you can get the book by itself, or you can bundle it together, which of course I highly recommend.
Perfect. And the book, again, as you said, also goes into depth about your story
Mm-hmm.
and how this was formulated, as you say, over many, many, many years.
Yes.
Well, I have had a reading with Keyth, and it was incredible. And when you look at the deck, as he said, all of these, the artistry, he created the Blue Rose logo. So if you look at the deck, like, not only is it gorgeous because it has the gold foil, but then all of these, what would be tarot, the basic, so these different symbols. So share for people who don't know maybe tarot, you
Mm-hmm.
want to explain what tarot is, and then
Sure.
what a lot of these symbols in the deck stand for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I say tarot is it's a way for you to talk to your higher self and kind of bypass the conscious mind. It's a sacred language in numbers, pictures, symbols, and colors. So the deck has played many, many games of telephone over many, many generations, and it's been very diluted. And in my opinion, some very dark material has been added. Things have been altered, things have been distorted for nefarious purposes, either intentionally or unintentionally. I certainly, maybe it's a mixture of both, but I certainly see some intentional distortions of the deck. So the most common form of tarot known today is the Rider Waite deck. It's very, very popular. This is the people consider it to be the classic tarot deck. But actually, Aleister Crowley had a lot to do with that deck. And there's projected images of everything. All of the minor arcanum have these projected stories on them and these figures. And whereas this deck, in its purest form, gives you the raw data. Like here's the Nine of Cups, for example. So we see 9 cups, you know, and then you can extract information because there's different numbers of lines in each cup. So you can extract the numerology. The colors of the deck tell a different story. That the fact that the leaves are wilting here at the 9, which is the harvest of an emotional cycle. There's information to extract and glean once you learn the language of the cards, but it doesn't have a projected story on the cards that came from someone else's interpretation. It's like the raw data.
Right.
So this is the original deck of cards, in my opinion. Now, it's attached to Marseille. This is called the Ancient Marseille deck, is what this is a derivative of, because Mary Magdalene landed at Sainte Marie de la Mer, which is right next to the modern town of Marseille. So this is way back after Yahshua's crucifixion. The cards go way back before 1471. But the reason they can be traced back that early is because the Inquisition began in 1478. So they released a public version of the cards where they took some of the really controversial information out. which would have attached it to the Nasreen Essenes in their scrolls. If they had left all the information intact as it was, they would have burned the deck and destroyed it alongside the scrolls. So they removed and altered some certain information. For instance, the high priest became the Pope. Little things like that.
Right.
Certain symbols were altered, things were changed, because if it was too on the nose, they would have destroyed the deck.
So who altered that? So over time, who removed? So what they were doing, let me understand you. They removed some of it so that the deck could survive.
Yes.
Even though it wasn't surviving intact. And so who were they that destroyed?
Well, it would have been Mary Magdalene, and the Order of the Blue Rose was her mystery school. The persecution came from, 19 popes in a row made it their mission to extinguish the Holy Grail bloodline of the Cathars, and the persecution of the Inquisition. The powers that were, the powers that be, the Luciferian orders, they're the same powers that are pulling the strings today. They change the way they appear, but it's the same puppet masters pulling the same strings.
So earlier you said some of the deck, or many decks, right, as they've been evolving over time, have been influenced by nefarious sources, whether it be intentional or not. What does that mean? Share more about that.
Well, the power of the cards and their messages are in a large part subconscious. So it's the same thing as films and how they put in subconscious information in films or hidden frequencies in music, because it alters the subconscious mind. It's all about mind control and controlling the way we think and the way we feel. So that would, just distorting the deck changes things. The biggest, most egregious error is strength and justice have had their numbers swapped. In the ancient deck, strength is 11 and justice is 8. In the modern decks, those numbers have been switched, which tells a completely different story. And it's very subtle what's been done in many cases. I would like to write another book that juxtaposes the Rider-Waite versus the Ancient Marseille and now the Tarot of the Blue Rose, and write a book about the differences. One of the main differences is the High Priestess card. In the Rider-Waite deck, it's a very different image, by the way, but she's sitting in between two towers with the B and the J on it. She has a scroll, and it says Tora dash on it, Torah. And that is not in the High Priestess of this deck, because the book she's actually holding is the Bible of the Nasreen Essenes, the Holy Megillah. So it's just very deceptive, and it when you're working with the cards on a spiritual subconscious level, that it's murky, it's not clear.
So as people, for those that know about the Tarot and have used the Tarot, for those that don't, you're explaining a little bit of why this is important. A lot of this is divination. There are different ways to divine information, right? And we are our own, I always say we are our own guru.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can ask for guidance, and that's what these are. So how does somebody determine, here's what I get a lot of questions about when I'm doing spiritual coaching, is how do I discern when the information is not of the highest order for me? Anybody, right? How do they discern that?
I go by vibration. And it's a big deal for me. If you smell a rat, there's a rat. If you see a red flag, there's a red flag. I don't think you can fool the body.
No, I agree.
So if you're in touch with the divine spark that you are, the I am presence that we all carry within, if you're in tune with that and something doesn't feel right, I say trust it.
And it is a feeling state, absolutely, right? And this is where people get, for a lot of us that are running urban lifestyle, right? We're stressed, our mind is out there, but our body, we're not connected, we're dissociated. And a lot of what I do is help them get back to that interoception, that internal knowing. And so I love that you're saying that it's a vibrational thing. And so for somebody, what would you say, get in touch with the vibration? How would they know that? What's one thing you can share with them that would help them intuit, for those that feel like they're not quite connected to their intuition?
I mean, how do you explain intuition? It's a feeling, it's a vibration. Many of us were talked out of it or trained out of it, taught not to trust it. I think on a larger scale, it's the same thing as erasing the divine feminine from the scriptures, because the cognitive light is masculine and the intuitive light is feminine. So trying to get us all to be in the headspace and the brain and to be analytical
Right.
and the go, as you said, the urban
And the
lifestyle.
fear, the fear mongering and
Right.
all of that
It's
takes us out.
it's all mental. It takes
Yeah.
us out of the heart space.
Yeah.
So get in touch with your feelings. I guess number one would be meditate, because the truth is within you. The light is within you. And when you quiet this and focus on the breath and start to focus on the heart, then it blooms from within you. And your heart will never lie to you.
Right. That's exactly right. And you're absolutely right about the body. The body is in real time. We can be mentally out there. I always say when I'm working with somebody, it's almost like a kindergarten teacher calling all the kids back from the playground. All of that mental, where we're at, right? We're out, and we want to call them all back so that we're fully present and embodied. And I think that that's a really good explanation of it. And so, yeah, how do they read it, right? How do they tune into the clairs? Because we are all intuitive in that way, and we just haven't been listening, right? So this, I can see how this can help. How do people, I have a couple of friends who maybe lean too much on other people's readings versus dropping into their own. So how do they use this in a healthy way without getting addicted to it?
Sure. Well, again, I agree that everyone is your own guru. And these cards, the verse in the text that these cards are associated with, which by the way is called the Holy Megillah, the Nasrian Bible of the Essene Way, the verse in there says that the intention of the original cards, called kashab, which means to prick up one's ears, as in pay attention, important information incoming, is to achieve union with eternal life. So when you need guidance, when you're asking, when you need clarity, I think that's when you tune in. And I encourage everyone to learn the cards for themselves and to do readings for themselves. I love trading readings with other people. I love getting other people's perspective. And what I write about is merely a suggestion. This is my interpretation of the numbers, the pictures, and the symbols that have come through me. The way that the information came to me was through my sacred creativity. It was by hand drawing the cards and counting the numbers of lines and deciphering and decoding these messages. That's how I saw the subtleties in the cards, was because I was making exact replicas of the oldest deck known to man. And I did it 9 times. So then I would go and do readings for other people. And as I was reading for other people, information would just pop out spontaneously, which was like, oh, that didn't come from me. That's got to go in the book. So it was this pendulum swinging of isolation and then bringing it in community with people to get this information. And everyone has this ability. So I love that. I love watching other people use these cards and hearing their interpretation of it, and even assimilating something that comes through someone else into my own purview. It's just an ongoing. It's a living, breathing organism. It's constantly in development. Part of what I write about in my book is this is the post-Atlantean version of the cards. You see the floodwaters of Atlantis in Major Arcanum 10, the Wheel of Fortune. You see the Lemurian healing of the Atlantean-Lemurian split in the Mount Shasta card depicted in Judgment. These cards they will speak to you on a personal level, to tell an individual what they need to hear or guide them to the information. They have prophecy in them. There's global messages for the group ovum of the collective humanity. There's multidimensional messages in these. And what we call God or Great Spirit or Yahweh or whatever you want to call it speaks through synchronicity, numbers, colors. Is a frequency. Color and sound are the same thing. It's all numbers when you boil down to it. So there's so much sacred information packed into such a little pack of cards that it's just enormous fun to be able to understand the language and extract it and use it for guidance in your daily life when necessary. To answer your question about becoming addicted to them, just don't overuse. I mean, don't overuse. They'll let you know when you're doing that to them.
Okay.
They'll start spitting out gibberish, or or they'll just stop speaking. But they'll also call. Yeah. And there are times when I haven't touched the cards for a month or so. It was time to write, or they wanted to be quiet, and then they would whisper to me when they were ready. The more you work with them, the more you'll start to see the images of the cards in your third eye.
And well, one, I wanted to highlight Keyth because my experience with the read, and he's going to pull a couple cards for me just so you kind of get a sense of it. But what I loved is the beauty of them and the process that you went through, and it felt really playful.
Yeah.
And that's another really big thing for me. And I think for any of us and for you out there, as you're working with your own intuition and you're finding your own gifts, this is Keyth's gift. He's bringing this information in. And for me, I love being on the land. I'm a pagan and I want to connect to the earth. So we each have our own special gifts. And the beauty of these kinds of things for divination can just give you that little nudge that you already know. You know, and a lot of times this is confirmation for kind of where you're at. The one read that I had is like everything was lined up for my business. And then I had the devil. And the devil was a symbol of something is being mischievous or attempting to block. I had a lesson to learn through this one particular card.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what he pulls up for me today. But I love the care and the love that you put into him. And we can feel this, especially right now with technology. Everybody's talking about how we're losing our humanity. No, we're not. There's an aspect of that that will remain. However, what I love about it is that it's really forcing us to have a reckoning with our humanity and what that means and where that power lies within us, because we are all divine. And so, yeah, I think that was primarily it. I think those were the questions, like what is Tarot? You know, and you explained that. Why is this deck important? Let me think on like what else I wanted to ask you. How did you get involved? We didn't go there. Your personal story, and I know it's in the book.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give us some crib notes.
Of course. Yeah. Well, I was my spiritual awakening was ushered in through a 10-day juice fast in the desert of West Texas. And I was traveling with an activation partner, and we would come to a crossroads. And I was very skeptical at that time myself. Of course, everyone's heard of the tarot, but it's stigmatized. A lot of people are, wary of it. I was in that boat. I was like, okay, I know that it was silly. It was hokey. It didn't really hold any real weight to me until that fast, and we would come to a crossroads, and the person I was with had a deck with a blue star on it, and he would pull a card for option A and a card for option B, and they were speaking very powerfully in those times of need. And that's when I was like, okay, there's really something to these cards. So I got home from after the 10 days of juice fasting, and I wanted my own deck. And I was speaking to a friend, and she goes, you want your own deck? You have to read this book. And it was about the restoration of the oldest deck of cards known to man, which was rescued in 1997. They had to go track down all the cards in museums. And it's a long, beautiful story, but eventually they found a handmade deck that had all the missing pieces they've been searching 3 years for, and were able to restore and release the deck in 1997. That's the deck that when I read the book, I wanted to buy that deck. It's the Jodorowsky Camoin deck, the true Ancient Marseille in its purest form. And I couldn't find it online. It was out of print. So I'm an artist. So I found the digital PDFs, and I went to the art store and bought some paper, and I was like, I'll make my own. So I started, and that's when I learned, because the first deck I made so many errors. I didn't realize that every line is a numerological message. It's a sacred scroll in pictures and symbols and colors. So I'm a big believer that our sacred creativity is a method of communication with which the divine can speak to us when we get into alpha brainwave state. So I liken it to me being a student in mystery school, copying a sacred scroll line by line, and my DNA was absorbing the information in a very, very powerful way. So after I finished my first deck and I was reading the companion book, it did not meet my standards. So I gave it away and started my second deck the very next day. And I was striving for absolute perfection. And that second deck was with me for a very long time, and thousands of readings on that deck. So my very second reading was for a struggling heroin addict. And she saw me give a reading to somebody else, and he was very moved by it, very affected. And she asked me for a reading very meekly. And I pulled 3 cards for her. I remember tears coming out from her eyes. And she said, I have no money to give. I said, I do everything by donations. It's fine. And she goes, no, I want to give you something. And she gave me a blue rose pin that I've hand drawn here as the logo. And that was pinned on my bag ever since. I had no idea what it meant. So then I fell into Dolores Cannon's catalog, and she used the words blue rose and used blue roses on her poster. I didn't know what that was about. And then finally, it's all detailed in the book. But November 17th, 2020, I was doing a batch of readings with my second handmade deck. And this woman was fascinated by my cards and sat watching every move for hours. And she goes, "Where did you get those cards?" I said, "Well, thank you for asking. I made them." And she was very impressed. And I said, "I don't know how I know this, but somehow these cards are attached to Mary Magdalene and the Essenes." And that blew her away. And she goes, "I have to show you something." And that's when she went to her car and retrieved a book for me that she gifted to me, which was not available yet to the public. It is now, and that's the Essene Bible, the Holy Megillah. And she gave it to me wrapped in a red cloth covered in blue roses that look exactly like the pin.
Oh my God, I have so many chills.
Yeah. So then it finally, when I read the Holy Megillah for the first time, I got to the footnote on page 560, and that's where I learned in black and white that Mary Magdalene traveled to the south of France, Gaul, after Yahshua's crucifixion, where she established the Essene Order of the Blue Rose. When I read that, I was like, well, there it is. And the deck of cards was mentioned in that text too. So what's unique about this deck, and I've read the Holy Megillah over 40 times now, and there are clues in this deck that attach it to that outlawed sacred text. Now, you wouldn't know that unless you've had the text and were able to read it, and unless you really studied the cards to find the little hints and symbols.
Yeah, it's like little Easter eggs, you mean?
It's
kind
little
of
Easter
like
eggs.
popping. Yeah.
That's
okay.
exactly right.
Okay.
So what this book does, Essene Tarot and the Ancient Marseille, is show that proof. And then you get into the alphanumeric gematria codes, and it's really astounding what 369 vortex math does to all this. So
and that's a whole Tesla thing too.
That's a whole
right?
Tesla thing. Yeah. So it's really deep. It's a big rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But that's why it took me so long to write, because it's a lot of information that I had to condense down and make it digestible. And it's the most esoteric subject I could think to write about. So it was 9 drafts of the book over 5 years. It was 9 decks handmade over the years. And in the 9th deck, which I finished in 2025, that was when my spirit guides came to me and said, okay, this is what they took out. This is what needs to be changed and put back in to restore it to the early version before it was altered so that it could survive the Inquisition.
So when we did our read, it was last year, and I think that was your handmade deck. So so this is the latest iteration.
This is the latest,
so then
yes.
whatever you pull for me today is from this final deck that you
Scans
so last
of my
year
handmade,
was.
yeah.
Okay.
Scans
okay.
of my 9th handmade deck. That's the
Wow. Okay. So where do you go from here?
That's a great question. Well, I'm initiated into the official Nazarene Essene Church. I'm friends with the translator of the scrolls. They're selling my products at their flagship store. I've got my products in stores in Sedona and here in Mount Shasta. I do private readings for people. What's next? I'm in a resting phase right now, and I'm asking for what's next. But I've made a lot of videos. Anyone interested in going deeper into this, I've made a trilogy of videos called The Golden Braid that presents a lot of information. Of course, they're banned on all the major platforms, so you can find them on my website. You can find them on some alternative platforms.
Okay.
But, yeah, I've got the badge of honor. I've been kicked off of Meta. I've been kicked off of YouTube.
Really? Oh, well, that says a lot, doesn't it? Like
it does.
when something's powerful, they don't want people to know about it. Yeah. That's really amazing. Well, it'll be interesting because we're going to be putting this up on my YouTube channel, so we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
So what I'd love for you to do is just pull a couple cards. I don't really have a question, but I would love for you to, let's move these over here.
Okay.
We are at, by the way, Crystal Tones here in Mount Shasta, and so you're seeing some of these gorgeous bowls behind us. More on that later. I'm going to do an interview with them so you can see this beautiful space. If you do land in Mount Shasta, not only can you, now Keyth, you can do readings online, which we did, right? I don't think you knew I was here in Mount Shasta, so I didn't actually get the physical like I'm getting now. So let's move these.
Okay, that one wanted to come out.
Okay.
And we'll do one more. You said a couple, so we'll do 2.
Okay.
2 cards, demonstration purposes.
Demonstration.
So I always ask for a clear card, and I just kind of shuffle them around in my hands until one pops out.
And that's how people can use them as well, right? When they're first getting them and first playing with them.
Yeah, and I love that you said earlier it's playful, because it is playful. And it's not demonic, and it's not witchcraft. It is You know, it's merely a way to talk to a higher aspect of yourself. I consider it white magic. It's not scary.
Right.
It's just tuning into that intuition. You know, they want us cut off from our intuition. This is a way to hone it and build it.
Right.
So,
and the more you can trust into your own inner knowing, and so many people are waking up. I mean, this has been happening for a couple of years here in Mount Shasta. In fact, we had the harmonic convergence in 1987. There's all these kind of special times that we have all kind of gone through where there's a shift in consciousness, and we're definitely seeing it now. Maybe you can put a comment down below if you'd like yes, I'm seeing the awakening, I'm feeling the awakening. Like, I would love to know what you're noticing about your life right now, and why you're here. I would love to know that. All right, so I'm excited. What did you pull?
All right, let's just see the cards that we pulled and see if they want to say. Okay, well, that's interesting. The Page of Cups has come out. So the pages, this is one of the court cards. After the decad of the 1 through the 10 of cups, you get the 4 court cards, because the tarot is the origin of the playing cards. So the Jack, the Queen, the King, those come after the court cards. So the pages are known as being very youthful. They're apprentices to the knights. So they're inquisitive, they're exploratory. They can be naive on the shadow side simply due to their youth. But this one is the Page of Cups. Cups is the water sign, which is emotions, love, family, relationships, very watery energies. So we see this young masculine figure, and he's taking the lid off of this cup and looking inside of it. He's looking for this heart lesson from the past, because he's looking back at the past, and he wants to retrieve this purple pearl of mastery. Purple's the color of mastery because it's a mixture of red, which is divine masculine, and dark blue, which is divine feminine. There's very little purple in the tarot because it represents the supernal balance of masculine feminine, which happens within. So he's looking for this purple pearl, which happens to be at the very top of the only cup with a pyramidal base. So this cup is actually attached to ancient Egypt and the pyramids. So that he could very well be looking into a past life attached to Egypt or Atlantis. Water, Atlantis. So he's taking the lid off of this cup, and inside of the cup on the lid is the flesh color, which is the same color as the foundation. The color flesh is very material. It's very in the flesh. It's very in the body. It's very literal. So he's very much looking for this heart lesson of mastery attached to being in the body, most likely due to a past life in Egypt. It can be a very, very difficult heart wound that needs resolution in this lifetime. Now, as he goes back into this lesson to retrieve the purple pearl, you can see these orange plants are getting bigger and bigger. This is a heartbreak so big that you can't retrieve all the lessons at once. You have to do it in rounds. There can be a decade or more in between each of these trips. So orange is the color of wisdom because it's a blend of yellow and red. Yellow is fresh information, logic, intellect, and idea. It rides the beams of sunlight. Red is divine masculine active energy. So when you take the pieces of information that you've learned, yellow, and you actively red, apply those lessons into your life, those colors fuse together, yielding orange, which is applied knowledge, which is wisdom. So that's why as he takes this lid off and goes back to retrieve the mastery of this heart wound, the plants of orange wisdom are getting bigger. He's touching the ground with his yellow feet of intelligence. He's intuitively, dark blue is divine feminine intuition. Our legs are how we move through the world. He's intuitively going back at the right time and season and cycle to get these lessons that take decades to unfold. It's like a book. If you read it when you're 20, you get a lot of information. But if you come back to that book when you're 30, you'll get all kinds of different information out of it because you've changed. Right. The words on the text.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So it's the same with this purple pearl, which is inside the Vesica Pisces at the top of this pyramid. If he's obsessing about this lesson, it's like picking a scab so that a wound can't heal. If that happens, he'll trip up over this light blue shell and stumble.
You may not be able to see that in the card.
Right there, yeah. There you
go.
Light blue is the color of the sky, which is spirituality, whatever that means to you. You can continue to dissect. There's 5 yellow marbles hanging in his yellow hair. Yellow hair indicates great intelligence. 5 is the number of change. He's going through this change of intellect by investigating this heart wound. There's 6 flowers of light blue and red, which is spiritual activation, and 6 is the number of harmony and compassion and cooperation. So as you can see, once you understand what the colors mean and the numbers mean, there's just endless amounts of information you can continue to extract. But this is a young a young star-crossed lover with a heart wound that has a purple lesson of mastery that he's retrieving, and it takes time to unfold in multiple trips.
Okay. So
And
how does that relate? So when you discern the card, how does that relate to me? So as somebody who's getting a reading, how do I determine
I'm
how this
attaching
relates
it
to me?
right now because we're pulling this card as a demonstration for your podcast video that humanity is growing in our emotional capability and reconnecting to the heart. And I feel that there's a lot of Atlantean timelines being healed right now, and a lot of emotional stuff is coming up to be healed right now. That split between Lemuria and Atlantis was a big deal. So I feel that as a collective, we're growing in our heart wisdom and our emotional intelligence to retrieve these lessons that maybe we weren't able to fully understand or ascertain. We're growing as a collective in the heart space.
And
But
that feels correct too.
It feels
you know,
correct.
that does, you know, because I always, when I talk to friends about what's happening right now, I always say, you know, it's unfortunate because it feels like pain is necessary to drive change. And so that's what we're experiencing right now. And again, to prompt us to open our heart and be more willing to be a part of the collective change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that resonates.
I'm going to pause here.
Sure.
Let me just. I had to pause the video for just a moment, and he peeked at the next card. So let's go to the.
It couldn't be better. I swear this wasn't staged. But what it came out with is the Wheel of Fortune, Major Arcanum 10. This is the card of Atlantis. We were just talking about the Atlantean timelines being healed and water. So you can see the world floating on the floodwaters of Atlantis. This is the end of the bottom octave, 1 through 10. All three figures are within. The flesh-colored body is the physical body. The yellow body is the mental body. Yellow is logic, intellect, and idea, intelligence. The mental body and the flesh body are chasing each other's tails round and round on the wheel of karma, repeating the same mistakes with the same people, lifetime after lifetime. There's a crank to turn the wheel, but there's no hand turning the wheel. They're doing it to themselves. The higher self is the spiritual being up here. If you notice his face, it looks kind of like the devil. Because you mentioned the devil earlier, and I'm really interested in how the dark energy is the same thing as the high priest that sits below him. They both carry the energy of number 5. They're both the great teacher. They just have very different curriculum. So one teaches actively through sharing holy knowledge. The other one teaches you in solitude through seduction, temptation, overcoming your shadow. So this devilish kind of figure up top is the higher self. It is your shadow calling you forward, wanting to be defeated by the light, because the darkness is always defeated by the light, no matter what. He has the white sword of truth, wanting to cut the cords to keep these two jackals from chasing each other's tails around and around on the floating wheel, the world on Atlantis. The center of the card, because the spine of the card is the spine of your body, is the trunk of the tree of life. The center of the card is the heart chakra. The crown is up here, the root is down here. These colors of orange and dark blue are intuitive fulfillment, which I interpret as trust. This is a trusting heart, knowing that the heart will lead the way off the wheel of karma. All three of these figures, even the spiritual higher self that has master color purple right here, all have their tails. And there's a theme of tails in the deck. We shed our tails eventually. And that's shedding our lower instincts, our animal nature.
Sort of like the root, the base, right?
Well, it's overcoming 666. That number is carbon. Carbon is the element that has 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. So the agenda of 666 beings is to keep the Holy Spirit, the spirit of the human, trapped in a carbon-based life form, to not ascend into 777, which is the number of perfected light, the Lemurian light.
And that's the crystalline life. We're talking about DNA strands and all these other, with the light, with the solar flashes, with all of these things that are happening, physically changing our body, right?
Yes. So to crystalline, that's exactly right. So it's from 666 to 777. On the magician card, he's got 3 dice on the table. And the 3 dice have 1 dots, 2 dots, and 4 dots on the 3 sides that are available. Not only are those the first 3 numbers in 369 vortex math and the rule of doubling, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, but 1 plus 2 plus 4 is 7. So the 3 dice is a 7, 7, 7.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, which is element, I believe, nitrogen 14 that has 7 protons, 7 neutrons, 7 electrons. So there's something about nitrogen 14 that we're learning about. But it is through the purification of the body. We came into these physical bodies for a reason. And as we master our physical bodies and turn them from 666 into 777, we leave a trail of light for others to follow. We become way showers. And that's what this card is about. Atlantis fell and sank, both the continents of Lemuria and Atlantis, because we fell into greed and darkness. So that's what these tails represent. You see 2 imps with tails in the devil card. In the sun card, one being is standing on white ground of purity, not having any tail whatsoever. And the other, who he's leading across the ocean of oneness in the shadow, has half of a tail. So it's about shedding our tail and ascending to our natural crystalline light body. So I just think that's perfect that the Page of Cups has come out with the Wheel of Fortune. It's perfect.
Okay, so with a summation for our audience watching, because this is a collective draw, not for me, but a collective draw. So what does this mean for humanity right now?
It means we are facing what we weren't able to understand before. It means that we are willing to go into the depths of these lessons to mine the purple pearl of mastery from it. It means that we're healing a divide that's been here for eons. We're healing.
And it cannot be stopped. That's the other beautiful thing too, isn't it?
Nothing can stop what's coming.
So one quick thing for you, a question I have, because a lot of what quantum mechanics and with the CERN Hadron Collider apparently collapsing certain timelines,
which was just turned off.
Right, they just turned it off, right? And in preparation, this is interesting, somebody was telling me in preparation for this massive solar flash that's supposed to hit us, right? Which is supposed to reset everything. We'll see. You probably see a lot of that on YouTube, and you go to some of the channels and they're talking about that. What is your take on, based on the cards, the fact that a lot of what we're learning now is that everything is in the now? There is no such thing as future or past. It's all an existence of, so it's a vibration, like you said earlier, being able to lose our tail, move into this higher light, which then allows us to step into whatever playful vision we have for ourselves, because it all exists in the now.
All time exists simultaneously.
What is your take on that, based on like these reads?
Well, be in the heart, open the heart, and pray backwards in time, because prayer backwards works just as well as prayer forwards.
Yes, it does. You're right.
Heal yourself. Look at the things within yourself that you weren't able to see before. Take ownership of what needs to be owned within you. Heal what you can heal. Make amends when you can make amends. Because as you heal within yourself, it ripples out to everything around you. And we're meant to be living joyous, happy, and free. That's what our Creator wants. So do the work. If you're watching this video, it's because you were meant to see it. Be playful and be honest, and do the work. Do the work.
That's such a beautiful message. And when he was talking, I just saw there was a shift. There was for me, my senses felt this incredible, like, ceremony drop in based on what we are in ceremony for sure. But there was this interesting kind of transmutation that was happening when you were discussing that, because I think play is the portal. I think when we tap back into that playful, joyous heart, and what I understand in the fall of humanity, when we're talking about Atlantis and Lemuria, is that we went from our heart to our head. And that's the fall of humanity. And so, as you say, we're learning to come back to our heart
Big time.
and play and understand that this is, for all intents and purposes, it's a game. You get to play it, right? It's like theater. And so when you can come at it from that perspective and pop out of the fear, which is what these 2 cards illustrated, it's such an amazing time to be alive, isn't it? So I'm excited for you to bring this into the world. And so how do people, when you're ready and when you want to read from Keyth, how does how does our beautiful viewer here get in touch with you?
All you have to do is go to tarotbykeyth.com, Keyth with a Y, Keyth, and you can book a reading with me there. You can purchase products there from my supplier, House of Anouk.
Right. So we're looking at these decks, these beautiful decks in the book. Let's do
And
that.
they are beautiful. I'm
They
so excited.
really are. You really put so much love and effort into them. So
Thank you.
these incredible decks with the book, these, again, as he said, you get a little baby deck inside this cards. This really tells the story. And then the videos again, they're going to go to the videos to be able to see you did a lot of translation of.
Those are on my homepage. They're called the Golden Braid. It's a three-part series. If this interests you, if you're interested in 369, if you're interested in the Essenes, if the Blue Rose perks you up, and you want to go deeper, that's where you can find information. Is on my homepage. Watching the Golden Braid video series.
Perfect. I'll put all that information in the comment section below, so you know how to get in touch with Keyth to do a beautiful read here. And thank you.
You're welcome.
This was super fun.
That was super fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you're here. I know, right? Yeah. I have to model what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So more to come. I have all kinds of videos coming this way. I'm here in Mount Shasta. I am a spiritual coach. So if you feel like you're looking for some support that way, I would love to help you. You can reach out to me. I also do sacred site tours. I'm a permitted guide in Mount Shasta. So if you're being called by the mountain, reach out to me. I would love to support you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.